It's now time for Island Perspectives, a public affairs program brought to you by KLA TV Channel 6.
Hi, we're here today with Paul Maddox. Paul is the president for the Hawaii Racing Association, and we're going to discuss a little bit of the hurdles that the Hawaii Racing Association is facing and where we've come in the last several years that he's been working on it. And at this time, Paul, if you'd like to introduce the folks to what the Hawaii Racing Association is and what it's all about.
Okay, well, as most everybody knows, we've been rattling around for about 20 years. Started in 1994, actually, as the Hawaii International Speedway something or other, by a fellow named Jen Zanderson and some other guys who wanted to build a big NASCAR track. That was kind of their vision. And I joined up thinking that maybe if there was money there, they'd build a drag strip too, which is what we really need over here. And we started from there. I joined the organization. We started doing cruises at the old Jack in the Box and things like that to kind of raise awareness. Went for a couple, 3 years. They were still determined to build a NASCAR track, which I felt was a little more than what we needed. What we needed was a facility like Hilo's had for about 40 years now.
Right.
A county park that had a drag strip and other facilities that members had built, like the stock car track and the motocross tracks over there, all member built. So I thought we needed something like that over here. Well, ultimately we divided up, and they continued to pursue their idea, and I rearranged it as the Hawaii Racing Association. No dues, just membership was free, just to show support that there was.
What year did you do that?
About 2003, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we started doing things with the police department. We did, the community policing officers wanted to cook something up for the kids during the summer. I think it was 2003 or 4. Right. And we started doing car shows down at the old airport ball fields. And we did a bunch of those 2 or 3 years in a row. Big turnouts, great affairs, a lot of fun, all free. But raised a lot of awareness about the Racing Association.
Right. Now the track that you're looking at building, it's not just a drag strip. I mean, there's 3 phases that we're looking at.
Yeah, and the drag strip and anything that's asphalt and permanent would probably be about the last thing we'd be able to afford to do. What we're looking to do is get land where we can start with off-road events, which there's an awful lot of interest in now. A lot of folks out there with ATVs and motorcycles, and they're basically trespassing when they go out on the weekends to ride. So we're looking for acres where we can build trails where they can ride and have events, you know.
Right.
And then 4x4 folks can do rock crawling and mud bog if they can find the water.
And even an area for concerts once we get to that.
Once we get to it, yeah, we'd need a big parking area once we get more established and more events going on out there, and probably about 20 acres of the 250 acres would be basically a big gravel and asphalt parking area and pit area. Which is where we could relocate things like the carnival, which is really jammed down at the old A, and a place to have concerts, car shows, swap meets, things like that on the weekends.
Now we've got some land that the county is looking at, or the state is looking at donating. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, where we are now, we started originally thinking we'd be out by the dump at Pu'uanahulu. Who'd care if we were out by the dump?
Right.
Well, the hotels cared, and I agreed with them on that kind of. That was not my original thought, but that's where things started, and I was part of the group. So, but after a couple of years of being turned down by the state to get land out by the dump, I asked the then Mayor Yamashiro to give us a clue as to where we could build this thing and get it approved. And he had the DNLR go over their maps, and they said, if you want to be in Kona, the best place is going to be next to the airport.
Right.
And there was a 2,000-acre parcel, still 2,000-acre parcel there of state conservation land, and we could look at that property and decide where would be a good place for us. So we did, and that's kind of where we're at the location now.
Right.
It's the 1801 lava flow that spills down, actually creates the airport, but then up country between 2 ridges is a nice low area. And that's about where we're looking to put the park.
Basically, across from the state park access or entrance.
Right, the beach park entrance is on the other side, which is good because there's also access there, what they call sight distance, that'll approve pocket lanes, which is what we would need for people to come into the motorsport park.
And we're not far from the new college.
We're about 1.5 miles from Palama Nui. They are, of course, there's a ridge on both sides, and the ridge there really protects us. They can't see us.
Right.
And we held unofficial sound tests quite a few years ago. We brought a dragster down to the proposed site, and a motorcycle, one of them screaming Kawasaki things. So we'd have both ends of the spectrum, a big loud dragster and a shrieking motorcycle, and we revved them up and took sound measurements of our own, and had the folks from Palamanui there. We told them we were going to do it. We told everybody we were going to do it, actually, and the mayor's office at that time volunteered to have their answering machine available for folks to call in if they had heard anything about the tests, if they heard what was going on. So we put it in the paper and announced it on the radio that between 7 and 7:30 on whatever Saturday night it was, there was going to be a sound test, and folks should listen up if they lived up country or were
Right.
concerned about sound to see if they could hear anything. And so we did. I think, not for sure, but maybe at 7:07,
Right.
we started them up and revved them up and just roared the motors for 2 or 3 minutes real loud, and then waited to see what we heard. And they only got 2 or 3 calls of folks that heard this horrible noise from where that drag strip's going to be. And one of them heard it at 7:15, one of them heard it at 7:20, one of them heard it at 7:02.
Right.
So they were listening to their neighbors' lawnmowers probably. But it proved that nobody up country could hear us, and we know they were all listening because they were all
Right.
pretty concerned. And the folks from Palamanui were at the site where we had the cars to make sure we really had cars there.
Right.
At the site where Palamanui is now developed, then was nothing.
Right.
And they had folks up in Makalei, which is where I was when we started the test. And I was on the phone, and I called down to where the cars were, and the car and the bike were, and I said, okay, fire them up. And they said, hey, they're running. I said, what? And I could hear them on the phone. No, and pretty soon I couldn't even see where they were until one of the
Right.
guys down there started taking flash pictures, and oh, that's where they
Yeah.
are. So we knew those sound from those 2 vehicles, high and low, were not reaching up country,
Right.
and not to Palamanui.
Exactly.
And there was no Kukio at that time.
Right. And since then, you know, the mayor's office, I know, has kind of backed out. There wasn't a lot of funding available for a lot of different things, and so it just kind of went stale for a few years.
Well, the last 5 years, absolutely. We came to a grinding halt, which was kind of sad. We had a lot of support from Mayor Kim.
Right.
I did a report for their office, and Parks and Rec folks were pretty much on board that we should pursue the project at the location we're looking at now. But I'm realizing that before the state would turn the land over to the county, the state was going to require an EIS,
Right.
the full environmental impact statement. And that's about $500,000 if you're coming in just
Right.
to do one cold. So that was, unfortunately, actually Mayor Kim's executive assistant at the time was a young guy named Billy Kanoi.
Right.
And Billy was very supportive of the project, and then he decided to run, and we said, well, we're going to support this guy because he supports us. And he got elected, and the economy bottomed out.
Right.
So at that point, they kind of asked, could you guys back off on your park for a while we take care of the public services that really need to be taken care of?
Right.
And we said, absolutely, because things were tough and things were drying up everywhere, especially county money.
Right.
So we backed off, and the back off has been almost 5 years.
Right.
So the first of this year, I got word from the mayor's office that if we wanted to pursue this, things were starting to look better. And if we wanted to carry the ball and start the environmental impact statement necessities,
Right.
then we should move forward with it, because they were still interested in working with the state to turn the land over to be a county park.
Yeah. And now, one of the first parts of it is obviously the sound study. They needed a professional sound study.
Absolutely, because that's like I've been saying, the gorilla in the room was the sound. Everybody that's against it, supposedly, says, well, the sound is just going to be, keep us up all night.
They haven't heard jets take off, have they?
Well, yeah, the folks that live up, I always kind of wonder about that when there's 24/7, the planes are coming and going, and helicopters,
Right.
which are the worst. But until we do the sound study, and it's not like we're doing it, we're
Right.
paying a Wahoo firm almost 20 grand
Yeah.
to do this official study, which will be the first of a dozen studies that have to be done
Right.
for the EIS.
So, and the sound study was actually completed, or it is done?
It
a
isn't
month
quite
ago or
done.
A couple months ago?
Well, August, they went over, we brought them over, gave them a $10,000 deposit out of our HRA donation fund, which pretty much tapped us out, but we knew we had to get this thing launched.
Which HRA is a nonprofit, correct?
We are a nonprofit. We've been a nonprofit for over 15 years, very meticulously getting those reports in every year, even in the years when nothing was going on, to keep our nonprofit status legal. Where were we? A nonprofit.
Nonprofit. We're nonprofit status. $20,000 for the sound study, which we paid 10, and
Yes,
we've gotten donations in cents.
We've given them 10, and they came over in August with all their sound gear. Two guys from D.L. Adams and Associates, who are sound engineers among other things, and have been hired by the state and the county and even the feds to do sound studies around this side of the island, so they're very familiar with lava and the highway and all of that. And they went to the helo drags on the August races and recorded the sounds of the drags at the starting line, at the finish line, 500 feet away, all kinds of different samples. And we had Pete Comodini's jet dragster there that day, which is not particularly typical of your average drag car.
Right, exactly.
But it did give us, wow, here's the far end of the spectrum. Yeah. That baby pegged over 144 decibels.
Oh, wow.
But the normal, even the dragsters, which are the supercharged alcohol burning, fastest other things, they're only hitting 120 decibels.
Right.
The average little street Honda that's out there racing may be running at 80, 90 decibels.
So we got an excellent range then to work their study.
Whole range of cars, and the following weekend they recorded the sounds of the motocross races, which is the motorcycles, and got those readings too. So they'll take those readings, and now with the magic of computers, they can sublimate those sounds onto the area where we propose to have the drag strip and the motorcycles and all of that, and see how far those sounds travel in all directions, realizing there's a hill here and a hill there and a valley there and straight out to the highway there. And they'll be able to tell us with the colored charts and everything where the sound is the loudest and how it radiates out and how far it goes. And we've asked for a 3-mile radius, which is a pretty big hunk of survey work that they're doing, which takes us all the way to Kupia at the north, all the way up to Mamalahoa Highway, which is about 1,500, 2,000 feet above, south to Palama Nui, and of course the airport across the street, and the State Beach Park.
So right now, how much funds are we lacking to be able to receive the study and see actually what turned out?
Right now, we're probably about $3,000 away.
Okay.
It's been pretty good the last couple of weeks. We started really fundraising and making noise about needing money for this story.
So what's the best way people can donate?
Well, the simplest way is just send a check. We always accept checks, small bills. It's fine, anything.
And at the end of this program, I'll put on the screen the address that checks can be sent to. But we also do have a website, correct?
Well, actually, the website is the real portal to the Hawaii Racing Association. On the website, we have a monthly updated, or even more often than that, graph of where we are in our fundraising, what the goal is, and other information. There's a PayPal right there. Right. And we've been getting good action from PayPal. Folks sending us a lot of $10 donations.
Yeah, but it all adds up.
If 3,000 members, if they all sent $10, we're home.
That's right.
But of course, not all of them have. So.